Why do the French have hundreds of sauces, the English only one? But then most cuisines don't have refined sauces altogether. It's always the French, isn't it? But that has something to do with matching wines. And I'll tell you that secret in a second. Now, Juan asked me what are my favorite steak sauces. Well, here is my answer. Mushroom sauce, but not just any. I like it lighter and fresher. And you have never seen something like that before. Then of course, sauce béarnaise. But how do you do that correctly? And how could I ever get past red wine glaze? But making it without a drop of stock in just 30 minutes, that's a challenge. It's super easy and so good. You could serve it in a Michelin star restaurant. A big call, I know, but I owned one and I managed some, and that's why I will tell you some Michelin star sauce secrets that you have never heard before. First, mushroom sauce. I don't like bechamel. It's too cloggy. Instead, I used grated potato. I placed that into a pan. I added bacon and garlic, stock and thyme. I reduced it by half, and I blended it and passed it through a sieve. While that was happening, I placed some white wine into a separate pan and reduced that also until it was almost gone. Added cream and boiled it to the right consistency. Now I know what you're thinking. Why did I not just put the wine with the stock together? Well, wine contains acid. Acids will harden the pectin in the potatoes. They will stay hard like they're raw. That's why you never find potato recipes with wine or vinegar. Then I mixed the two sauces together. I reduced it. I added salt and pepper, but sauce needs butter. But I'll tell you more about that in a second. Yum. Now I need to stop here. Instead of mushroom, I could do something much naughtier. Blue cheese. An 80s classic. It goes brilliant with steak, but I don't want to show my age today. Now, talking about age, blue cheese actually has similar flavors than dry aged steak. So here is something for you to think about. Back to my mushrooms. Yes, you do have the recipe in the link below. I cleaned them dry. Mushrooms don't like washing. I cut them. Next, I chopped some shallots. And why not? A bit more bacon, thyme, parsley and garlic. You remember fresh flavors? Pan, butter, bacon, shallots, garlic. I cooked that on a medium heat for approximately 2 minutes. Mushrooms went in and I fried them golden brown. Salt and pepper. Yum. Steak, bacon, shallots, potatoes, mushrooms. But what could go better than a bit of seeded mustard? What do you think? Next, when I did run Michelin star kitchens, I once spoke to a Michelin inspector after he finished his meal and revealed himself. I asked him, what is the first thing you look in a dish? He said, the sauce. It tells me everything. Attention, skill, techniques, and craftsmanship. Basically everything that goes on in a kitchen. He then said that the great Escoffier used to say, on a sauce you can recognize a good cook. So let's move on to a sauce that is even older than Escoffier, sauce béarnaise. Sauce béarnaise has its origin in another mother sauce, sauce hollandaise. French sauce with a Dutch name. Do you want to know why? It used to be called sauce Isigny before the First World War. Isigny is in Normandy and makes the best butter. During the Great War, it became a war zone. Butter then got imported from Holland and got renamed to sauce hollandaise. Hollandaise is a semi-coagulated hot egg emulsion and starts with an egg sabayon. Egg yolks contain lecithin. Lecithin contains polar and non-polar ends. When I whisk it and disperse them, the polar ends create tiny fat droplets. The non-polar ends dissolve themselves into water and create tiny water droplets, and then they attach to each other and form millions of microscopic fat and water pores sticking to each other. Now, that's an emulsion. Think of mayonnaise. But egg yolks and butter on its own don't work. I need to add water-like liquids. So, I made a white wine vinegar reduction. Vinegar, shallots, peppercorns, bay leaf, and tarragon stalk. I boiled it for 15 minutes to cook away the sharper acids. I added some of that to my egg yolks, together with a splash of water, boiling hot water bath. I whisk it off the heat for a minute. It got all foamy, but the eggs are still raw. This will change when I cook them. And there's a trick for you to see that. Can you see how the eggs drop off the whisk like water? Now watch that in a minute. But then I remembered, sauce béarnaise, of course, is made from clarified butter because it needs to be thicker. Hollandaise, on the other hand, I could do just with butter. So I had to remove the watery milk solids from the butter. But how did I do that? Easy. Simmering hot water bath, bowl, butter. It melted, and the heavier milk solids sunk to the bottom. Then I chilled it. I removed the milk solids. That's my clarified butter. Easy. So, finally time for my egg sabayon. I whisk it over the simmering hot water bath to around 64 to 68 degrees Celsius, and that's the time when the eggs started to thicken. How did I work that out? Well, it's easy. Basically, when the eggs held on to the whisk wires like that, remember, before they dropped off like water, now it's a thick ribbon, the sign that the eggs are ready. I turn off the heat. I already melted my clarified butter and I added a little, and then more and more. Always making sure that the temperature is hottish, but not too cold or not too hot either. Salt and pepper, and then I passed it through a strainer in case I had some curdled egg yolk bits. In case your sauce break, you can save it, and I show you that in my online courses. I place it a link below. Tarragon, and I also like a little bit of chervil. Sauce béarnaise. Secret is a splash of water and properly cooked egg yolk sabayon. Look at that amazing consistency. But I will tell you more about sauce consistency in a minute. First, I had to make my red wine sauce. From scratch, as promised. Imagine you have no brown stock at home, like most home cooks do. Chefs, they could make the sauce easy. Butter, shallots, golden brown, then peppercorns and bay leaf, red wine, port wine, chicken stock, brown stock, and thyme. Cook it down by 3/4. So now you know why chefs say sauce is often the most expensive part of a dish. Then I finished it off with a bit of ice cold butter, because cold butter binds the sauce better. But that's not all what is butter for. It takes off the sauce's sharper edges and mellows the flavors together. Some chefs don't use butter, they use bone marrow, and that would be definitely a step up. But to get the consistency right, I added a bit of beurre meunier. Yes, I get to that. And sauce consistency as well in a minute. Now look at that clarity. Now look at that. Just as good, without any stock. You want to know how I made it? It's easy. Hot butter meat trimmings. I fry them as brown as possible. Then when I see it almost starts to burn, I deglaze it with red wine and fry again. I repeat that again and again till it looks that dark. Shallots as before, till golden. Thyme, pepper, bay leaf, a splash of red wine, port wine to balance the acid. Now the secret, I added no stock. Therefore my sauce will lack in length and body. No sticky collagen, no rich protein. Here's the secret, gelatin. It's basically dehydrated bone broth. Gelatin will thicken my sauce and give me long-lasting sticky flavors, which are needed to lead into my matching wine. I come to that in a second. I added a few sheets. I simmered the sauce for at least 30 minutes or longer. Then I strained it. I added a splash of water to the pot to wash off all the sticky bits. All that is flavor. Then, to get rid of any impurities, I passed the sauce through a cloth. Now, an old chef trick here is to place a sauce jug into it. That gently scratches and makes the sauce go through with ease. No one wants that stuff in the sauce. That would make me look like an amateur. Plus, as cleaner the sauce, as clearer the flavors. I reduced it, I thickened it with beurre manier, which is basically 1 part of butter and 1 part of flour mixed to a paste. Now you know that too. Ice cold butter again. It's time to taste them. Before I need to show you what is the right sauce consistency. Well, that depends on 2 factors. How wet is your meat? Take for example a roast chicken. The meat is drier and more porous, so the sauce will naturally hold on better than on a wet rare steak or a pink piece of fish. But the sauce needs to stick to the food and not be left behind on the plate. The test for that is a simple trick. Plate. You see, that's too thin and it will not hold on to anything. That one might be okay for a roast chicken, but not a rare steak. So that's the steak consistency I'm looking for. You remember me saying sauce is the bridge to your wine? And that's how it works. The French have so many sauces. Well, they have historically a lot of good wine too. Sauce in French cooking is not just a food lubricant. It's the flavor bridge to the wine. And if I want to match food and wine, I don't do that via the meat or the vegetables, as their flavors literally dive off the moment I swallowed it. What stays behind is the flavor of the sticky, protein-rich or fat-rich sauce with all the sugars and the acids, and they will coat and cover my mouth with a longer tasting flavor. And when that happens, it's time for a sip of wine. Think for a moment about blue cheese. Oh, you remember that blue cheese sauce? Yum. Anyway, soft cheese will coat your mouth with all its flavors. It's still there long after you've swallowed it. The same with bitter chocolate. A sauce continues a dish's flavor journey. It acts like the bridge to the wine. It revives the fading flavors. So if I want to cook for a specific bottle of wine, or if I want to recommend a wine to a diner, I do that by the sauce. But that's another story for another time. So I know you're going to say, where's the peppercorn gravy? Well, I did that already and it's on my channel, and I place it in the link below together with the guide to cook the perfect steak. Now, sadly, my wife is on holidays, so there is no judging today, but I hope you still enjoy the video.